Thank you to the Wolfeboro Lions Club for underwriting Nutritional Wisdom. The Wolfeboro Lions Club is committed to helping the community with health concerns such as diabetes prevention and preservation of sight and hearing. The Wolfeboro Lions Club meets on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month in the 1812 room at the Wolfeboro Inn. Members of the community are encouraged to attend meetings or visit the website e-clubhouse.org/sites/Wolfeboro for more information.
Hi, this is Patty Walker, registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator and your host of Nutritional Wisdom. Today will be the sixth in a series of interactive diabetes classes. I will be using materials from the Diabetes Conversation Maps, which are the same used in many certified diabetes programs. My goal is to provide you with the necessary information that you need to manage the diabetes from the comfort of your home. Since these classes work best with interaction, I will have some people from the community be part of our series. For today's show, I want to welcome Michelle and Dawn.
Hi.
Hi.
Good to be here.
Oh, I tell you, it's always a pleasure to have you both. For people that have watched this series, you've seen them in earlier shows, so not together though. So in today's show, we're going to continue our talk about blood sugar monitoring while focusing on low blood sugars, high blood sugars, their symptoms, and then the solutions on how to deal with each. As I mentioned in the previous shows, the map that we're using compares blood sugars to flying a hot air balloon. As the blue arrow across the center of the map indicates, you will have a steady and even flight when you keep your blood glucose in your target range and your A1C below 7. So let's talk about some of the things that can cause your flight to be a little bit bumpier than you'd like to. So, how does food impact your blood sugars, ladies and gentlemen?
Makes it go up.
All food?
Well, I'm not sure about that.
How about you, Michelle?
I think there are some foods that are better, but I think everything has an impact on your blood sugar. But there are some foods that are better than others.
Yeah. So what foods would you say would cause blood sugars to go up?
Juices, orange juice.
A great one.
Carbohydrates.
Yes. Yep. Carbohydrates. Yep.
Yeah.
So carbohydrates all turn to glucose. But I'm glad you had mentioned juice because a lot of people don't understand that a half a cup of juice, 1/2 a cup, raises blood sugars 45 to 60 points within 15 minutes.
Wow.
When I learned that, I just cut out having, I always had orange juice. And I thought, this is the
We're
most
trained,
healthy
yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Juice in the morning.
And I completely stopped.
Yeah.
Rarely do I have any orange juice.
And that's why at the hospitals you'll see that it's one of the best things they use to treat a low blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
So how about other foods? What types of carbohydrates more specifically?
Breads, pastas.
And anything with sugars?
Oh, gosh.
Like Christmas cookies?
Yeah, all those, Valentine's Day candy,
Yeah.
all of those definitely will affect your blood sugars.
Some fruits will increase, I think.
Actually, all fruits will, because fruits
Okay.
are all carbohydrates. Yep. So carbohydrates, as you'd mentioned, they're found in your fruits, your grains, your starchy vegetables such as corn, peas, potatoes, and winter squash, and then anything sweet and snacky will all tend to cause blood sugars to go up. We think of protein foods being neutral, protein being your meats, your eggs, your cheese, your fish, your poultry, but if you eat excess of them, they will have a spike in your blood sugars 3 to 5 hours afterwards, just because we don't store protein as amino acids. It's stored. It's then excess protein will be converted to glucose. So people that follow the Atkins or a keto diet are surprised that their blood sugars are a little high later. And then the fats, which are your mayonnaise, your butters, your oils, your gravies. If they're in moderation, they're very neutral. They have very little impact on your blood sugars. But if it's a fast food meal or a high-fat meal like macaroni and cheese or pizza or Chinese food, they actually can slow the rise of blood sugars.
Really?
So what that happens is you eat a fast food meal, you test your blood sugars 2 hours later, and it's like, oh, that wasn't bad. No, actually, I'm sorry. That they're really, really high. What happened? Well, it's almost like you're testing an hour after the meal when they're peaking. So
Okay.
you have to wait a little bit longer if you have a high fatty meal to get a better indication of
Okay.
how your body's dealing with it. But yeah, so food definitely has an impact, and my advice is, the number one advice is always to cut out sweetened beverages. If you're used to juices, then have a splash of juice with water or in a seltzer or something, or use the natural flavored seltzers.
Does alcohol, wines and alcohol, will they increase?
Great question. Yes and no.
All right.
All right. So straight alcohol, like your
Bourbon or
your bourbon, your
gin.
vodka, your gin, those types of things, the alcohol isn't absorbed through the digestive tract; it's absorbed through the stomach lining.
Okay.
And so alcohol goes from the stomach lining directly to the liver to be detoxified. So if you remember from previous classes, another thing that your liver does is it breaks down stored sugar, which is called glycogen, and contributes to your blood sugar. If your liver is detoxifying alcohol, it actually stops breaking down that glycogen temporarily. So
Okay.
you can actually, if you drink alcohol on an empty stomach, you are at risk for a low blood sugar.
Wow.
That said, if it's a beer or if it has a mixer that has some type of carbohydrate, that balances it out, and you wouldn't notice the low blood sugar. And then, so it's always best to drink in moderation. Try not to have sweetened mixers, and to have a small snack or have alcohol as part of your meal.
What about wine?
Wine is similar to the rum, the hard liquors.
Wow. Great.
Okay. Yep. All right. Great question. Thanks. All right. So activity is another thing that affects blood sugar. So would you expect activity to raise or lower your blood sugars?
Lower.
Okay. Don?
I was thinking raise. I
Okay.
mean temporarily while you're exercising.
Yep. You're both right. So that's great. So in general, they're kids, okay? In general, the slow, prolonged exercises like walking and yoga, those generally will just gently lower your blood sugars over time. Anytime you can do an activity for longer than 15 minutes, you'll have a positive lowering of your blood sugars for up to 24 hours afterwards. So that's really important. But if it's a stressful activity like sprinting or an athletic event where you're in a competition, the adrenaline that's also produced in your body can cause a spike in blood sugars, and then you might be at risk for low blood sugars hours later. So in general, exercise and activity is very healthy and very helpful on blood sugars, but you do have to be aware while you're doing it, and what type of activity. And then if you're a person with that takes insulin, we actually encourage you to test your blood sugars before you start off, and if it's not under 200, not to go for any activity, and if it's under 100, to have a snack. So there are some, and those are good questions to ask a diabetes educator to get more specific information about your activity routine. But activities generally are pretty positive for your blood sugars.
Good.
Yeah. So another big category that could affect blood sugars would be medication.
Absolutely.
So any experience with diabetes medications and how it affects your blood sugars? Family members or yourself? I know, Dawn, right now I don't think you've ever, you're on a small amount of medication, you
Yes.
mentioned.
Yeah.
And
And actually, I had an issue last summer of stomach aches and having trouble with digestion, and my doctor suggested I either cut back from 1 tablet a day, from 2 tablets to 1, or just discontinue it.
yeah.
And so I did that. We don't know whether it did anything, but my system got back to normal.
Yeah.
And then I started taking the medication again.
Are you on? So we're talking about metformin,
Right.
and just for the audience, to know there'll be an entire show on the different diabetes medications and what they do as far as your blood sugars, what they target in the body, and the potential side effects. And metformin is a great first-line medication, but it can cause some GI distress. And if you're on it and you still have that GI distress, gurgling stomach, diarrhea, a lot of gas, you should talk to your doctor. So that's an important one. The majority of people tolerate it, but for the few that don't, it's not worth the discomfort and inconvenience on that medication, because there are lots of other options, including lifestyle. So my goal is always to get you with the lifestyle interventions first. So I know family members.
Yep, I've had family members on metformin. Recently just changed to two other medications, and weaning off the metformin, and what a difference. What
Positive
a difference.
or
Oh
negative?
my goodness, yes.
In what regard?
The digestive is almost zero.
Good.
And it's sugars are really, really good.
Okay.
And they're actually able to determine when they're high and they're low themselves. I can see it.
Yeah.
But they can't always see it.
Yeah,
themselves.
we're going to talk about that. Hypoglycemic unawareness.
So, but they're able to determine that they're feeling a little different,
Okay.
and to go test their sugar.
Oh, good.
So
That's
but unfortunately, it's expensive.
Yeah.
A lot of those medications aren't covered by Medicare, and
Really?
so they're more out of pocket, and so that's certainly
It's something to look at. That's why I'm telling you, people out there, lifestyle makes
Yes.
a big difference. Weight loss, getting on a healthy diet, it will require change, but you balance the change with a better quality of life and less expensive out-of-pocket costs, less risk for long-term complications. There's so much that you can do with lifestyle, and I know that in our society, it's easier to take a pill or a medication, but there's always side effects and consequences. So, it's up to you each to balance what works best for you, and that's the best you can do. You all have to make those personal choices, but realize that lifestyle can make a huge difference with especially activity and diet. So anything else that causes blood sugars to fluctuate that you can think of?
stress.
Very good. Yeah.
We don't have any of that in our lives.
No. So of course not. We're stress-free in Wolfeboro, New Hampshire.
Right.
So yes. So we're the vacation capital, first vacation capital of the country or the world.
But we live here.
Oldest summer resort in America.
Yes, right.
So there you go. It's utopia here.
Yep.
No, but yes, stress will actually increase your blood sugars, as will illness and infection. So I do remind my clients, if they ever go to the hospital unexpectedly and have to spend the night or a duration, to be expected to get off your oral medications, and they'll treat you with insulin. And the reason for that is that insulin can get the blood sugars into a safer range and promote healing. If your blood sugars stay too elevated, you're going to reduce your healing time, and so you have a prolonged hospital stay. So hospitals traditionally will treat any person that has diabetes with multiple blood sugar checks a day and will use insulin.
Okay. So I had surgery last year, and that was the first time I realized the doctors had insulin in my room already to use.
Oh.
And I thought, why is that? And it was the stress of the surgery or
Yep.
whatever.
It's physiological stress. Your
Right.
body's under stress. Yep.
And the other thing to comment on that is if you go to the emergency room or any place of medical nature, it's so important for you to say, I'm a diabetic.
Oh, yes.
Are you aware?
Yes.
Because sometimes they won't, and as soon as you say you're a diabetic, their ears go up and they treat you. Even if you didn't have diabetes, you'd get a lot more attention because you said you did.
Yeah, and a lot of persons with diabetes will wear a bracelet to identify,
Oh, really?
or a necklace that says I have diabetes, or have a card in their wallet. So those are all important things. And as you say, anytime you go to the hospital or an ER, having an updated list of medications on your person is also really important.
I put
so much
mine in my
quicker.
iPhone.
There you go.
And it's very easy to just, and I can change it whenever I want to.
Yeah.
It's quick and it's easier for everybody as
Yeah.
you're checking into whatever facility you're going to.
Absolutely. And, I mean, it gives you a better quality of care.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there's no risk in not doing that. So, again, a little bit of personal responsibility, but it's going to save you a lot in the long run.
Right.
All right. So, as we'd mentioned, we want to ride our hot air balloon. We want a nice, steady, even flight. So, what is it called when your blood sugars are too high? Do you remember?
Hypo?
Almost. The other-
Hyper.
Hyper is high. And how about when they're low?
Hypo.
Okay, yes. So hyperglycemia and hypoglycemia. So hyper or hypo is the abbreviations for them. So we're going to see that those are represented on the orange hot air balloon on the map. So hypo or low blood sugar is represented by the pink, and hyper is represented by the orange balloon. And you're going to notice that the balloons indicate blood sugars. A low blood sugar is below 70, and a high blood sugar is anything higher than 130 before meals and over 180 2 hours after a meal. So again, these are the recommendations by the American Diabetes Association, but it's important to discuss your blood sugar goals with your diabetes healthcare team. Your goals may be different than that. I often see people that come into my office with uncontrolled diabetes, and their blood sugars are routinely running 300s and 400s, and they will have low blood sugar reactions if their blood sugars get 100, 150. So it's really, really important. And if your blood sugars drop really quickly, you can have a low blood sugar reaction also. So individualizing those target ranges are important, as is knowing what the symptoms of high and low blood sugars are. So guess where we're heading with this one? So in my hand, I have lots of cards, and we're going to quickly, I'm just going to hopefully, here's a bunch, here's a bunch. We're going back and forth. Read the symptom on the card, and as a group, let's say if they're high or low. So Michelle, could you start?
Fast heartbeat.
Is that a high or low, guys?
Gonna go for high.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, actually, it's low. And I know. So this is a really good one because, well, you don't want that.
No.
Because heart disease is the #1 killer for persons with diabetes, so realize that. But I have had 2 or 3 episodes with clients who end up in the hospital, have an ambulance ride to the hospital, and an overnight stay for observation because they had a heart rate that was rapid and they didn't associate it with low blood sugar. And so you really have to understand that it is a symptom. It's not the most common symptom, as we're going to go over other ones, but if you have a fast heart rate and if you're a person with diabetes, I don't want to dismiss the rapid heart rate, but if you can, quickly think back going, gosh, I forgot to eat and I took my insulin, or there's reasons why you have potentially a low blood sugar and it comes on really quickly. If you can test your blood sugars, that would be helpful, but I am not at all telling you not to call the ambulance if you're at
Before or
all
after
concerned.
the aspirin.
Yeah, well, I'm not an expert
Different
in
show.
aspirin. Yeah, different show. Our VNA specialist here. But just realize that low blood sugar, a rapid heart rate is a sign of a low blood sugar.
Wow.
So, Don, what do you have?
Okay, I have shaky,
Shaky. What do you think?
low.
Yeah. Yep. Shaky. Common sign of low. Yep. Michelle?
Sweating. I'm gonna say that is low.
Don?
I agree.
Yep. I actually, when I was in a hospital setting, there was a gentleman who just got diagnosed with diabetes, and his nurse came in, his lunch came in, but his nurse was on lunch break, and so she came in after he consumed his lunch and gave him his insulin. And we're doing some education, and all of a sudden he's like, I am not feeling well, and sweat is dripping off his forehead, and it came on very suddenly, which is classic of low blood sugars. And I said, well, why don't we just go ask the nurse to get the glucometer, and we tested, and he definitely had a low blood sugar. And and that was caused because the insulin wasn't given before the meal. So if you're ever in a hospital and you're on insulin, please don't eat that food before you get the insulin. The nurses can reheat the food. I know it's tempting if the meal is delivered. And this was years ago, so now I think the protocols at the hospital have changed so that that situation wouldn't happen. But we turned lemon into lemonade, and I said this is a great teaching opportunity, and he learned how to treat his low blood sugar, so it was good. But sweating is a very common sign, especially if you're the only one in the room sweating. Done.
Yes. Feeling drowsy.
Okay.
I'd say low.
Definitely low.
Okay. Yep. Drowsiness can be a low blood sugar because the sugar is too low in your bloodstream. Okay.
Weakness, definitely low.
Yep. Good.
And headache. Low.
Well, that could be high too.
Exactly.
Okay.
So some of these can be both,
Yeah.
but traditionally it's low because glucose isn't getting to the brain.
Yep.
Great.
Anxiety, definitely low.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm cranky.
Yes. Irritability, I think, is one of the ones coming up. What do you got, Doug?
Or maybe not able to think clearly.
Yes.
Ooh,
I've been told that a few times, but it doesn't have anything to do with it.
Well, check your blood sugar anyways.
Yeah, right. That's an excuse. I think I'll go check my
Yeah,
blood
go
sugar.
check your blood sugar. Yes, so,
So it's
not
low.
thinking clearly is low again. Glucose not getting to the brain. So go ahead.
Dry mouth and dry skin.
Ooh.
I'm going to say with anything, I would say high.
Yep.
I agree.
Absolutely, because we're going to get to a couple other highs, but this is a classic symptom of a high blood sugar is dry mouth and dry skin, dry itchy skin especially. Yep.
Irritable.
Irritable, we already called that one.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. Increased urination. I'm going to say definitely high.
Yeah. And that is because your body's trying to help lower the blood sugars by spilling some into the urine, and you'll pee more frequently. It's one of the first signs of high blood sugars is increased urination.
Blurred vision. Low.
I think that could be both.
It is both. You're a
Okay.
boy. That does
good
deserve a high
today.
five. Come on. Yeah. Low because, again, the sugar's not there, but high because the sugar is there and water is swelling temporarily. So, yeah,
Thirst, definitely high.
correct.
Hunger. I think that's high.
I don't know because in my family, hunger, like the nibblies, has been low.
I love it because both of them are correct.
Okay.
You guys are spot on. Yeah.
We're good. We're good. They
Okay.
pay us well done.
All right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that volunteer salary. I'm going to double it tomorrow.
Do we get vacations?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
There you go. All right. You have a couple left. Good.
Oh,
Go ahead.
cuts or sores that will not heal. That's high.
It is high. Yes. You have one more?
And lack of energy.
Yeah, so fatigue and lack of energy can go both ways. Low blood sugars because you don't have enough energy, and high blood sugars because the energies aren't getting into the cells. So awesome job with that. Really, really, I'm sure the audience learned a lot with that. So that's great.
I learned a lot.
Yeah. So any experience with any of these symptoms with yourself or family members? And if so, what happened and what did you do?
Yes. I've got 2 family members who have diabetes, type 2. And I can absolutely tell with a lot of these. And that's what my experience here was on the irritability, the shakes, the nibblies, just eating dinner and getting up and going and getting some more nibblies.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? So just different things like that. So that's where I get my information.
Okay.
And I've never had any indication that I have diabetes.
And
I
you've
mean,
had
other
diabetes
than-
for 7 years,
Right.
maybe? Yeah. And no symptoms.
No.
Yep.
Does
Yes.
anyone else in your home see symptoms that you aren't seeing?
Not particularly.
Okay.
Because I can tell before.
Yeah.
They
And that's
can.
very common. That's very classic. Yeah. And that's same with sleep apnea, different subject, but usually it's the significant other that notices
Yes.
the spouse has sleep apnea before they do. Okay. So recognizing these signs are important, but sometimes you might not know or you might not be able to feel it. So that is the hypoglycemic unawareness. So the only way to know is to check your blood sugars. And so that way, if they're high and low on occasion, that's understandable, but we want to minimize those times and know how to deal with them. So we're going to take a quick look at how to treat low blood sugars. So there's an area on the map entitled low blood sugars. So Dawn, if you can read what it says on the map.
Treatment of low blood glucose. If you have low blood glucose, don't wait. Take something right away to get your blood glucose back into a safe range. If blood glucose is less than 70 milligrams, take 15 grams of a carbohydrate. Check your blood glucose again in 15 minutes and repeat as needed.
All right, Michelle, what else does it say?
Some examples of food that contain 15 grams of carbohydrates are half a cup of orange or apple juice, a third cup of grape or cranberry juice, half a cup of non-diet soda, and 1 tablespoon honey or corn syrup.
Or sugar, yeah. Yeah, and what I find is very common is my clients will say, oh yeah, I carry the glucose tabs and I take one. One glucose tab is 5 grams of sugar.
Not enough.
And so it's not enough. Because as I said earlier, 15 grams of sugar, which is a half a cup of orange juice or a third of a cup, everything you just read there is 15 grams of sugar. And you also notice that it's all quick sources of sugar. It's not chocolate.
Right.
It's not peanut butter. It's stuff that's pure carbohydrate that is going to raise your blood sugar as quickly as possible. And all of those sources will raise your blood sugar 45 to 60 points within 15 minutes.
So if you, as an example in my family, if you're feeling a little bit low, you don't go for a cookie.
No, and if you test your blood sugar first thing or before any meal and you notice your blood sugar's low, treat the low blood sugar with this format. Wait 15 minutes and retest to make sure it's at a safe level. So many people will just eat their food, and in general it's going to be okay, but they're not going to feel as well as quickly, especially if they had like eggs, because the eggs don't have a lot of sugar, so they're still going to feel pretty crappy. And
Good
low
to know.
blood sugars, it's not fun.
No.
So, and it's always important to test 15 minutes afterwards. So, have you had to deal with low blood sugars at home at all?
Yes, very low blood sugars. Thankfully, my mother has type 2. She is able to actually wake herself up, and she knows that she's got low blood sugar, and we immediately get her her banana and her orange juice, and then she tests, and then she goes.
But realize, okay, so you want to treat it systematically. You really want to treat it, in some cases you may want to double the treatment, but you want pure sugar. So banana actually has a little fiber. And from the first show, we learned that fiber slows the rise of blood sugars.
Yes, it does.
So you want pure sugar like juice, jelly beans, lifesavers, jelly beans in your container of glucometer strips. An empty container of glucometer strips, just have that jelly beans. That's the perfect amount. So it's 4 or 5 big ones, or maybe a dozen of the Jelly Belly type of jelly beans that will fit into it. And that's a very quick, easy way of doing it too. But because one of my clients, she lived alone, she was in her 80s, and so she had a low blood sugar. She tested, it was like 52. She goes, fortunately she could feel the blood sugar. She went to the refrigerator, poured herself a glass of juice, and put some sugar in it because the nurses at the hospital put sugar in your juice. Tested 5 minutes later. It's important to wait 15 minutes because you need that time to get the blood sugar into the bloodstream and break down. So it was still low, so she redoubled her efforts and had more juice. and then tested another 10 minutes later. Well, she tested and it was like 62 or something, so it was still low. So she thought, oh my gosh, it's still low. And then ended up having some cookies and milk. And then the consequence of all that is she was stuck with high blood sugars in the 300 and 500 range for like hours afterwards.
Right.
Instead of just like quickly treating it.
Yep.
So hopefully that's an important thing that people at home learn. And if you have any questions, feel free to call me. All right, so high blood sugars. What are some of the consequences of high blood sugars? I think this is our last topic for today. Can you think of why you don't want your blood sugars high?
I think it probably hurts your organs.
Kind
insides.
of.
It kind of hurts the insides.
It kind of destroys everything, yeah.
Yeah. And it leads to cardiac issues. It leads to liver issues. It leads to a lot of different issues if you don't keep it in a good place.
Yeah. So you have the quick short-term complications or inconveniences like going to the bathroom more frequently, being thirsty, those types of things, blurred vision. But long-term complications, often they're silent. You don't know they're happening. And heart attacks, kidney disease, dialysis. It's the number one cause of people on dialysis is uncontrolled diabetes, blindness, amputations, affects everything in your body. So you really, really do want to pay attention to those high blood sugars. All right. So we're going to look at what you can do if your blood sugars are high. There's going to be on the map up there on the wall, you're going to see the treatment of high blood sugars on the side of the mountain. So Michelle, I'm going to ask you to read out loud what it says on that wall there.
Treatment of high blood pressure glucose. It's important to determine the cause of the high blood glucose so that you can address the cause and avoid it in the future. Here are some suggestions for dealing with high blood glucose. Drink extra sugar-free fluids, adjust your meal plan, and work with your healthcare team to adjust your medications.
Yeah, and I would also add just going for a walk, because that's going to activity is going to lower that blood sugar. Don't go for a run, go for a walk. As we say, if it's too high, that's not good either. So, all right. So, emotionally, when the blood sugars are too high or too low, any comments from either one of you?
It's important. I get more stressed than my family members do. I think maybe because I'm in the healthcare industry. I know where it could lead. So I get a little bit more stressed, and I'm learning to kind of back off a little bit. But they're not as, they feel that they can handle it, and they do it. So
Okay.
Well, some of the stress, like for me, because I never expected I would ever have diabetes.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I was told that I had diabetes. Was what did I do to make this happen? And I've gradually realized that it's probably more in your genes.
Yep.
But
the uncontrollable factors,
Right.
getting older, having
Yes.
family history, those
Yeah.
all are absolutely.
So you have to just swallow that and say, okay, I need to exercise more. I need to eat my carrots and celery and all that stuff. And I was fortunate because I saw the results of that
Yep.
in my A1C coming down.
So we're going to end the show just realizing that sometimes a change in your routine can cause blood sugar fluctuations. So Dawn, if you can just read that final section on the map there about that shows the change in routines. What does it say?
Holidays and special occasions, late or skipped meals, travel and vacation, stress and illness.
Yeah, so have you been impacted by any of those? So what one rings out the most? What's the hardest one to deal with?
stress, I think. Stress is uncontrollable a lot of times.
Deep breaths help. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, if you're having a special event, there's always the temptations.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything
Yeah.
that you look at, I can't eat
Yeah.
that, I can't eat that. So So that is a limitation or important to be aware of.
Yep, or maybe perhaps like take a bite instead of, your usual portion of 3 pieces,
Yes, right.
I know you, Don. No. But yeah, because again, no food is off the table, so to speak, if you
Right.
have diabetes, but what you do most of the time is the most important. So,
And that's a major misconception with the general public, I would say.
oh, absolutely. The myths about diabetes. Yes.
So
that was
when I first said I had diabetes, so you can't eat any cookies or any.
Yep. So our job is to help the public know that that's not the case. They're not the ideal foods all the time, but anything in moderation on special occasions does fit in. Yeah. So that is today's show. Any questions before we leave today?
A lot of great information.
Yes, we learned a lot today.
Absolutely.
Oh, you guys are great. Okay, again, I'd like to thank both of you for joining me. In our next episode, we're going to discuss diabetes medications, what's available, how they affect your blood sugar, and what medications may be best for you, because some medications are not good for certain conditions. So until then, we all wish you good health, and please be sure to share these videos with your family and friends. Thank you.